Hello beautiful people, welcome to Remi's Fashion. My name is Remi. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draft a Bustier pattern with yoke. If you're interested in knowing how to draft this pattern, then keep on watching. The measurements you will need are on the screen. So these are the materials we're going to be using for this tutorial. I'm going to be using this Ankara fabric. This is going to be my main fabric for the bodies. And then I'm going to be using this plain fabric. This is going to be the one I'm going to use to cut the yoke. And then I have interfacing here. And then I'm going to be using a matching zipper and pattern paper. And then you should have your other basic supplies. So I'm going to start by drafting out my pattern. So I put my pattern paper on fold so that by the time I finish drafting, I can open up the center front so that you see what it looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is to have a starting point. I'm going to draw out a starting point. So I'm going to name this my starting point, my shoulder line. So the next thing I'm going to do is to draw out my vertical measurements. That's from my shoulder to my bust, shoulder to my under bust, and shoulder to my waist. From my shoulder to my bust is 12 inches. So I'll measure and I'll mark. Shoulder to my under bust is 16 inches. So I'll measure and I'll mark. And shoulder to my waist is 19 inches. I will mark. I'll do the same thing across. 12 is for my bust. 16 is for my under bust. And 19 inches is for my waistline. And then I'll draw a horizontal line across. And then I'll just write out my labels. This is my bust line. This is my under bust line. And this is my waistline. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to plot in my shoulder measurement on my shoulder line. My shoulder measurement is 18 inches. By the time I divide that by 2, it's going to give me 9 inches. So I'm going to measure 9 inches. And I'll plot it on my shoulder line. This is my shoulder line. So I'm measuring 9 inches. 9 inches puts me here. I'll mark. After doing that, I'm going to measure out my neck width and my neck depth. I'm going to be using 3.5 inches for my neck width. I'll also use 3.5 inches for the depth. And then I'll draw out my neckline. The next thing I'm going to do is on my shoulder line, I'm going to slope it by 1 inch because our shoulders are not straight. I'm going to slope it and then I'll connect it to my neck width. So from this 1 inch now, I'll connect it to my neck width. So the next thing I'm going to do is to create the armhole curve. To create the armhole curve, for that, you will need your armhole measurement, or you divide your bust circumference measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches. And whatever you get is what you're going to measure here down. After calculation, mine is 9 inches. So from my slope, I'm going to measure 9 inches down. 9 inches puts me here, on here. I'm going to draw a horizontal line across. And then I will take this 9 inches on the shoulder line. You bring it down here, 9 inches. That puts me here, I'll mark. And then I'll draw this line down. So this is our armhole line. And this line is our chest line or upper bust line. So I'm just going to write CL as chest line. So we'll now create the curve by finding the midpoint of this line. My line here is 9 inches. Half of 9 inches is 4.5 inches. So I'm just going to measure 4.5 inches. That puts me here. And I'll measure half an inch inwards. That's half an inch inwards. Whatever yours is, you measure and mark. So the next thing we need to do now is to plot in our bust circumference measurement on the chest line. So whatever your circumference measurement is, you divide it by 4. Whatever you get is what you're going to plot here. Mine is, after calculation, is 11 inches. So I'm going to measure 11 inches down here and I'll mark. And to create the armhole curve, I'm going to connect from here to here to here. So this is my armhole curve. So the next thing we're going to do now is to plot your bust span measurement. Bust span measurement is also known as nipple to nipple measurement. So whatever yours is, divide it by 2 and then you will plot. So mine is 4.5 inches and I'm going to measure it on my bust line, under bust line and the waistline. So this is my 4.5 inches on my bust line, under bust line. and on my waistline. And then I'll use a straight line to connect my points. So the next thing we're going to do is to go to my shoulder line. See, this is my shoulder line. So the midpoint of your shoulder line, measure what your shoulder line is and divide it by 2. Whatever you have, you mark. You can measure like this. Whatever you have, you fold it into 2. This is the midpoint. Then you mark like this. So this is my shoulder midpoint. And from here now, I'm going to connect it to my bust line. The next thing we're going to do now is to create our dart on the under bust line and on the waistline. This is my center front and this is my side front. On the center front side, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch on the under bust line and also on the waistline. So I'll measure 1/2 inch. I'll put a mark there. I'll measure 1/2 inch on the waistline as well. I'll put a dot there and then I'll connect these 2 points together. The side close to the side front on this side, I'll measure 1.5 inch on the under bust line and 1.5 inch on the waistline. And then I'm going to connect with a straight line like this. And then from the bust line at the bust point, I'm going to measure 1 inch downwards. So using my curve, I'm going to connect from here to here. And then I'll connect on this side as well. So the next thing we're going to do is to create our over the bust tightening. So on this, our shoulder darts from the chest line, I'm going to measure 2 inches upwards and I'll mark. I'm going to be creating the over the bust tightening. I'm also going to draw out a sweetheart neckline. So whatever neckline you prefer to draw, you can go ahead and do that. And then by the time I do that, on this point, it's 1 inch on both sides. And then from this 1 inch, I'm going to connect from here down to this point. And then I'll connect the other side as well. And then just make sure you blend here in. So the next thing I'm going to do after doing this, so on the chest line, I'm going to go up by 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to connect from here to the point I went up by. So this is a personal preference. You can decide how deep or how high you want your neckline to be. So whatever you decide you want to do, then go ahead and do that. I'm going to be using my yoke, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to go up by 1/2 inch. I will mark, this is 1/2 inch here. That puts me there. And then I'm going to use my curve and then I'll connect. So from this point now, I'm going to connect to my 1/2 inch. So I'll do the same thing for the other side. I'll connect from this top point, I'll connect it to my armhole. So I'll now connect it like this and then can blend it into the armhole like this. So this is our sweetheart neckline. Since I'm going to be using the yoke, I'm going to go ahead and connect these points together. We have got something exciting to share with you today that's going to take your fashion journey to the next level. Introducing Remi's Fashion Membership, your golden ticket to an exclusive world of fashion-forward content, behind the scenes access and fabulous perks. By becoming an exclusive member of our channel, you will not only get an all-access pass to some incredible perks, but you will also play a vital role in helping us continue to create the content you love. Becoming a Remi's Fashion member is super easy. Just hit that join button below in this video and you will instantly unlock a world of fashion possibilities. Member only community. Join a community of like-minded individuals. Connect with fellow fashion enthusiasts. Share ideas and get personalized advice. Influence the channel. Your opinion matters. As an exclusive member, you will have a say in the content we create. Vote on video topics, suggest ideas, and help us tailor our content to your preferences. But it's not just about the perks, it's also about supporting the content you love. Your membership helps us invest in better equipment, research, and resources to continue delivering top-notch content. Thank you for being a part of our Fashion Forward family. With Remi's Fashion Membership, we're turning your passion for fashion into an unforgettable experience. Whether you choose to join as an exclusive member or not, your support means the world to us. Together, we will continue to learn, create, and inspire. Stay tuned for more exciting content. And remember, the join button is just a click away. Get ready to strut your style and make a statement. Join us today and let's make fashion magic. So I'm going to go ahead and cover up the gap. Let's blend it in. So this is our yoke. This is our center front, this is our side. We're going to cut out this part. This part is going to go. So we're going to cut out this part. And this is our yoke. And this is my sweetheart neckline. So when I'm cutting it out, I'm going to cut it out like this. And this is going to be my yoke. And then this, I'm going to cut out like this. So just blend here. Make sure it smooths out. And then I'm going to cut out this part and then this part. So the darts for both the top and the bottom are going to be cut off. The next thing we're going to do now is to plot in our circumference measurement. On my chest line, I've already plotted in my bust circumference measurement, which is 11 inches. And that's it there. And then I'm going to measure what this is. My dart intake, I'm going to replace it back, which is 2 inches. So I'm going to measure 2 inches and I'm going to add that back. So divide whatever your under bust circumference measurement is, divide it by 4, and then you plot it on your under bust line. Mine is 9.25. I'm going to measure and I will mark 9.25. That puts me here and I will mark. And then I'm going to add my dart intake. I'll add it back here and I'll mark. My calculated circumference measurement on my waistline is 9.5 inches. That is your waist circumference measurement divided by 4. Whatever you have, you plot it on your waistline. Mine is 9.5 inches. So I'm going to measure 9.5 inches. 9.5 inches puts me here. I'm going to replace this dart on here. And I'm going to replace it here. So the next thing I'm going to do is to connect my points. So the top here is our yoke. So now I'm going to label my pattern. So this is my yoke. This is my center front. Okay. So CF. And this is my side front. And that's SF. The next thing I need to do now is I'm going to cut out this pattern. I'm going to add all my sewing allowances when I'm transferring to fabric. I did not add any here. When I'm transferring to fabric, I'm going to add everything. These are our front patterns. So this is the front with the yoke. So when I'm transferring to fabric, I'm going to add sewing allowances round. So I'm going to open it now and show you what the complete pattern looks like. So this is the center front and these are the sides, and then this is the yoke. These are our front patterns. So the next thing we need to do now is to draft the back. So the next thing we're going to do now is to draft out our back. I put my paper on fold as well for the back, just like I did for the front. And then I'm going to draw out a starting point. So this is my shoulder line. And for the back, we're going to be having a zipper allowance. I'm going to measure 1 inch for my zipper allowance on here. So this is my zipper allowance. And this is my shoulder line. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out my vertical measurements, just like we did for the front, from my shoulder to my bust and then shoulder to my waist. My shoulder to my bust is 12 inches. I'll mark. Shoulder to my waist is 19 inches. I'll mark. And then I'll draw a horizontal line to connect my points. So this is my bust line and then this is my waistline. And then I'm going to measure out my shoulder measurement on my shoulder line. Take your measurement. Make sure you take your measurements from the zipper allowance, after the zipper allowance. So mine is 9 inches and my shoulder measurement is 9 inches. So I will mark 9 inches. And then I'm going to draw out my neck width and neck depth. I use a neck width of 3.5 inches for the front. That's exactly what I'm going to be using for the back. 3.5 inches. And then I'm going to take a depth of 1.5 inch for the back. So this is a great difference between my front and my back. The neckline, then the zipper allowance. So I'm going to draw the neckline out. I'm going to draw it out of the zipper line. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slope my shoulder by 1 inch, just like I did for my front. I'm going to connect it to my neck width. And then I'm going to create my armhole curve. Just like we did for the front, my armhole line is 9 inches from my slanted point. So whatever your measurement is, you plot it in. And then I'll draw a horizontal line to connect the points. And then I will take my shoulder measurement, which is 9 inches. I'm going to bring it down here. 9 inches. I'm going to mark. That's on here. And then I'm going to draw a straight line to connect. So this now is my chest line. This is my chest line or upper bust line. And then I'm going to create my curve. I'll get the midpoint of my armhole line, just like we did for the front. Mine is 4.5 inches. After getting the midpoint, I'll plot in my bust circumference measurement. Mine is 11 inches. I'll measure and I'll plot it in here. And then I'll create my curve. The next thing we're going to do now is to draft out our dart for the back. I'm going to measure my nipple to nipple measurement on my chest line, the bust line, and the waistline. So mine is 4.5 inches. I will mark. And then I will do the same thing on my bust line. I'll measure and I'll mark. And then on my waistline, I'll also measure 4.5 inches. I will mark. So whatever yours is, you should mark it there. And then on the chest line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch. And then from this 1 inch, I'm going to connect all the way down to the waistline with a straight line. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up our dart so that I can draw out my dart legs. And I'm going to be using 1/2 inch on the waistline on both sides. And then I'll connect to this point. So this is my dart. So the next thing we're going to do now is to plot in our circumference measurement. I've already plotted in my circumference measurement on my chest line. Mine is 11 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do is to plot in my waist circumference measurement. Whatever your waist circumference measurement is, divided by 4. Mine is 9.5 inches. So I'll measure 9.5 inches. 9.5 inches puts me here. I will take this dart. I will add it to my waistline. After adding this 1 inch, I'm also going to make provision for 1/2 inch zipper bulge that I'm going to be removing from the waistline. So I'm going to add 1/2 inch. This is a provision I'm making for it. And then I'm going to connect from here to here. So after doing this, you can now decide how deep you want your yoke to be. I'm going to be using this part as my yoke. So I'm going to rule a line across. So you can either use this as your yoke or you can slant it, whatever you prefer. You can do that on here. So I want to have an opening at the back. So I'm going to measure 1 inch from my neckline. So this is my neckline. So I'm going to measure 1 inch down. So I'm just going to mark. This is my 1 inch. And then I'm going to use my curve. And then I'm going to draw a curve down. So I'm going to draw a curve like this to meet my 1 inch. So this is going to be my yoke. I'm just going to write yoke. The next thing I'm going to do now is to create the back tightening to prevent zipper bulge. On the waistline, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch inwards. And then from this line, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch as well. And then I'm going to connect to the top. You can connect to your chest line or you can connect upwards. Connect like this. And then the second one as well, I'll connect. And then this is our new zipper line. So I'm just going to write zipper. Zipper allowance. So this is my new zipper allowance. I will now cut out my back pattern. So these are my back patterns. This is my new zipper allowance. And this is my yoke. These are my back patterns. See, with the yoke, if you want the yoke, you have the yoke there. You see how I have this beautiful semicircle. So you can decide you don't want that. You want to just draft the normal back. That's fine. This is a personal preference. I'm going to be sewing in my dart. So this is the back pattern. So these are patterns all done. So I'm going to be using this fabric to cut out my patterns. This is going to be for my main body and this is going to be for the yoke So if you do not want the yoke, you can just take it out. And then you have the patterns without the top. You have it without the yoke. But you want the yoke, we have already drafted the yoke. So you can use the yoke if you want it, but if you don't, you can take it out. I did not add any sewing allowances on my pattern. So when I'm transferring to fabric, I will add all the sewing allowances. With this, we have come to the end of this tutorial. Would you be trying out this pattern? Let me know in the comment section. If you are still yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit on the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next tutorial. Take care and God bless.